It is a brand new episode of Flyers Daily, and in the offseason, we love to check in with the big head honchos. And from the Flyers front office, we bring in right now, we've talked to him on the pod before, Alyn McCauley, of course, is the assistant general manager, director of player development, has been in all kinds of roles. Can you believe, Alyn, first of all, that you're in your 9th season, maybe 10th season with the Flyers?
No, it has certainly flown by. It's been a bit of a up and down road, but thoroughly enjoyed being, connected and part of the Flyers, organization, staff, community. I know we've, like I said, had some bumps along the way, but it's certainly a storied franchise, and you feel the love, even when it's the Eagles chant during the game and what have you. I know that there's a lot of support for the orange and black.
Yeah, a great sports city. Like, you love to see that, and just passionate fans. And I know you guys want to get back into that pantheon as well. We're going to talk about that. Let me ask you real quick, because I never asked you this before. As a kid who grew up playing the game, aspirations of playing at the highest level, you're drafted by the New Jersey Devils back in, I believe, 95. You had a pro career, but transitioning to life after hockey and, kind of getting the real job now. You've been with the Flyers 10 years. What was that transition like for you from just a mental standpoint, leaving the player part behind and becoming a working man going forward?
Yeah, it was, yes, it certainly was a transition. And I think, and some people give me advice to take a couple years and just sort out, give myself some time, some mental space to figure out what the next steps were. And I can't say that at that time, like when I removed myself as a player, that I envisioned getting back into hockey. To be perfectly honest, there was probably real estate or accounting was something that was always of interest to me. And I took a year where I did nothing. And then I had another year where I got into coaching in Canadian University. And then I got a phone call to join the pro scouting staff in LA. And so kind of 3 years removed, or 2+ years removed, allowed me enough space to kind of, do a variety of things to get me ready, probably mentally more than anything, to venture into this side of the game and learn it. I had a lot to learn for sure. Even though you play the game and think you understand it, there's lots of nuances to learn, how to evaluate the game or the player a little more, specifically, minutely. And so, that probably took at least 3 years that kind of, I would say, transition into being a productive scout and seeing the game kind of through those eyes or that lens. And luckily for me, I got to be part of some winning teams in LA and played a very small part of that. But there was lots of learning that went along with that, and being part of that staff and that maturation of that team becoming a Stanley Cup winner. So very thankful, and that happened, like I said, probably about 3 years removed from the game. And so I was kind of ready to take on a new challenge, but I know, guys, I think it's one of the things that former players really struggle with is what do I attach myself to next?
What's my identity?
Seen as, yeah, exactly, 100%. And you see that, and I've had some discussions with some former military people, and they view it very similarly, that they're part of a unit, a team, and not that I can speak to that, but that was how the conversations went, and so then how do you see yourself, and what do you like? You're always seen as out in public, you're seen as a hockey player, and there's lots of, say, positives that go along with that, and then now you're removed from it, and what do you do? I know lots of players that get into firefighting, policing, and it's the same kind of thing, that they're part of a unit, they're part of a staff and team, and that's what we know best. And so, luckily for me, I was brought back in on this side of the equation, and moved the decimal point in salary over 2 or 3 spots, and here we are today.
Yeah, it's how you self-identify, and having that gap allowed you probably to make the right decision. First of all, on the Kings, real quick, I'm still amazed A, at Kopitar, B, that they never did kind of a tear down rebuild. They kind of just kept pivoting on the fly and are still very relevant in the Western Conference. You surprised to see that sustainability of not only Kopitar but that organization?
Yeah, and I think they probably go hand in hand. It's not just Kopi. I know that Drew's still there, and
Yeah,
there's some of the pieces, the significant pieces that allowed us to win back then. And there's lots of other guys that are still around that franchise that laid some of the groundwork either behind the scenes, or a guy like Matt Green that's part of development and part of the King staff that was a player at that time. But yeah, no, Kopi's such a talent. And you could see it right away. Like, he was actually a room with them, his first training camp. Just the way he carried himself. He had things to learn, of course, but very mature sense of the game. And yeah, the longevity is if the performance hasn't been, kind of Hall of Fame level, the longevity and the consistency of it certainly has, and I would argue both are. But and he's become a leader, a captain, everything else, and yeah, I think he's still is a pivotal piece, a cog in that wheel that pushes that team and allows them to compete as high, as great as they continue to do so in the Western Conference. And again, he's not alone, but he's been there just as long as Drew has, or maybe a year longer. And they continue to amaze and continue. Like, I don't know if Kopi, did he have his best season last year? I mean,
I
it
think
was,
he did.
yeah, which is crazy to think
Yeah.
about. Not just to have, to kind of slow the taper off, or have the numbers tail off a little bit, but to actually have them spike up or be one of the best seasons he's ever had. Yeah, he's a heck of a player. Yes.
Yeah. How important it is, for any organization, Alyn, to have those guys in there, guys that have been in the league a long time, played significant roles, cachet players like Doughty, like Kopitar, like Couturier, like Travis Konechny to some degree, to usher the younger players in and let them see what it's like to be a professional, push yourself beyond your capabilities, and do all the things it takes to succeed at the NHL level. Because you've got a lot of young players in the organization, Flyers organization now, and more coming. How important are those guys to be those example setters for that next generation of players coming into the league?
It's huge. We were fortunate in LA, to have some players kind of around, our young guys, and Doughty and Kopitar, guys like Scott Thornton, guys like Sean O'Donnell, that, again, you're not, it's great when you have the Jonathan Tays or the Kopitars that are like your kind of main players, as well as kind of your leaders, doing things the right way, training hard, doing all the kind of, the things that will propel the entire group forward. But, when those guys are starting out, and kind of, what you're alluding to with our group is we've got some young guys, some real pivotal pieces, and, to have them surrounded by some players, whether they're on the first power play or not, but guys that are veteran players, experienced guys that show up, and show up to work every day, good attitude, team first mentality when the game starts, all those things. I think whether those young players understand or not, really start to sink in, and they start to understand what it is to be a pro. They know that they're talented, and and I'm sure that I was the same way when I broke into the league. That there were good players around me, and at the time I wasn't thinking about what I was learning, but it's key to have those players, around your young guys, and learning the right ways, and whether it's how they train, how they approach the game, how they interact with referees, with coaches, all those little, subtleties of the game of being a professional hockey player are key, learning stage for them, to be become all that they potentially could be as a player, because not only do they develop individually, but as a group, you can have greater success when you have those guys doing those things, not only with making plays and scoring goals and what have you, but when they carry themselves a certain way and approach the game, both on and off the ice, in a winning manner is what I would categorize it as.
Well, you look at the Florida Panthers, and it's so apparent the rigidity of preparation before games and just throughout a season. It leads to a lot of success. And I think young players have those aha moments and go, why does this guy always go to bed at this time? Well, now I'm in game 67 of my pro career. I realize why sleep is important, or why is this guy always stretching, or things like that, because the grind of the NHL has got to be on your body, mind, emotionally, mentally, and everything is a huge toll.
Yes, and it's like that's why it's not like these guys grow on trees, but anytime they have an opportunity to pull a player in that's won before, that has that experience. Like I go back, and at times there's been a lot made about it, but however many years ago it was when we brought Niskanen in, and Niskanen was a cup winner, and he'd been through the trenches of the playoffs and come out on the other side where he could hoist the Stanley Cup. I think that's an invaluable, set of experiences, knowledge when it's passed on to the next group. Even if that group didn't win, watching, like you say, the routine, the habits of that player that allowed him to be part of a Stanley Cup winner, that's invaluable moving forward. And that's what you want your young guys to be surrounded by and absorb, however it may be that they take that kind of information and those habits in.
I remember when they returned after the pandemic and the bubble playoffs, and boy, Niski was a guy in the playoffs that sacrificed his face, his long-term looks to try and win in the playoffs. You surprised he walked away?
Yeah, I mean, a little
lot
bit,
of boxes,
because
didn't he?
he did, absolutely. Like he
Yeah.
was a really good player, and if memory serves me correctly, I think we gave up Goody for him, and everyone loved Goody, and he was a warrior, and embodied a lot of things that we wanted our team to do and be, but at the same time, he didn't have that Stanley Cup pedigree like Niski had, and I think you saw that at times. Maybe we just didn't have a good enough team around him. But I think, in particular, that first year that he came and was a flyer, just whether he settled down a game or I shouldn't say settled down a game, but he would get put in a certain situation, and he knew how to handle it. And I think, Provy was his partner at the time, and I think Provy benefited, but the whole group did, by just kind of, hey, this is, this guy's been there, done that, and this is what we need to do. And like I said, maybe we just weren't good enough, but I do think that he was having that type of effect on his partner as well as the group.
That was the 1920, heading into the 1920 season. You guys made 3 key acquisitions that offseason. It was Kevin Hayes, because Nolan Patrick couldn't go. It was Tyler Pitlick, and it was Matt Niskanen. And Alyn, I've talked about this on the podcast before. There was very few guys that I could see go out there and give you a shift where nothing happened when it was most important that nothing happened. Just keep it in the neutral zone, or between the top of the circles in each end, just to calm a game down. Niskanen was so good at that.
100%. Like I can think of, at the end of the game, you would forget about the plays that he made.
Yeah.
Yet when you kind of dug in and really gave it some more thought, you'd be like, oh yeah, remember that the game was tied and it was 2-on-1, and he got a stick on the puck and he negated that chance for the other team, and we got going in the other direction. It's almost like the goalie that makes a save, and then the team goes transitions, goes down the other way and scores, and everyone's like, oh, what a great goal, and they forget about the save that was made just prior to that.
I don't ever forget about that save. I point it out every time. It's a 2-for-1.
It very much, you see it all the time in the game, and I just think that some of those subtleties or subtle plays that Niski would make were by some undervalued. But when you kind of added them all up together at the end of the game, you're like, wow, that was such an efficient, effective game from that right defenseman that allowed other guys to do other things that might have caught the attention of the spectator or someone else in the building. Yet, he allowed that to happen with using his head and his feet and his competitive nature too.
Traits of a winner, no doubt. Let's talk about Dan Vladar, because I remember breaking down kind of some of Dan Vladar here on the podcast. And in a game against the Kings, ironically enough, at the end of the year last year, it's a 1-0 game in the third period. A game at Calgary absolutely had to win. He makes an enormous save. It goes the other way. Calgary goes up 2-0. They go on to rout the Kings on that night. But Dan Vladar, I was really impressed with him, Alyn, with his media availability when he joined me here as well. Just his kind of disposition on who deserves the net. There was no entitlement to Dan Vladar. If I'm playing better, I deserve the net. If Sam Erson's playing better, he deserves the net. That mindset has got to be something that everything is earned on a hockey team. And when a goalie has that as well, that's a good thing to bleed forward.
100%. And I'm not surprised. I didn't know, Dan beforehand by any means, but the way that I would perceive, the player and what the personality that would go along with his approach to the game makes a lot of sense that his mindset would be what you just stated it to be, that he's going to go in there when he's given the opportunity, he's going to make the most of it. He's going to battle, he's going to find ways to make saves and put pressure on Urs. And then probably on the other side of the equation, he expects no different from Sam. And so I think that internal competition should be a real benefit for both of those individuals, but then also collectively to the group. And also, as you know, when goaltenders have that kind of competitive nature, the team feeds off of it. Mm-hmm. So and so sometimes, even though a goal is scored, the manner in which it went by the goaltender and the body language around it can go both ways. But a guy like Dan Vladar, and how I perceive him to be, even when those situations, and they will happen, when they happen, the team is going to rally around him a little bit, because he's not going to quit on the play. He's going to give it, every ounce of his being to try and get in front of that puck. And I think guys will be energized by that competitive nature, that attitude, that effort level. And, I think it'll have a real benefit to a number of areas with our group.
Yeah, I think a goalie articulating too, when he doesn't play well, you go into the locker room after a game, you can't hide from it when you don't play well as a goalie. You walk in and say, guys, boys, you could have scored 7. I'd have given up 8. You could have scored 12. I'd have given up 13. This is on me. You just take it, and that's part of the deal.
Yeah, and I think guys appreciate that kind of ownership, and I agree. I mean, the winger that didn't get in the shooting lane isn't as obvious, or isn't such a mistake. Maybe the puck goes over the net, or the team isn't hurt. But if the goaltender's out of position, or is a little slow in reading the play, or gets caught behind traffic, whatever it may be, it's a lot more obvious. Or if they misplay the puck, even more obvious. But again, I think if that effort level is there, on a day in, day out basis, I think that the guys, kind of rally around that goaltender, and battle for him. And so a lot of those, those nights will happen where it's just not super sharp and the puck's finding ways in. And I think the team learns to move on from quickly, as does the goaltender. So I think it'll be certainly hopeful, and I'm biased because we have Dan in our group now, but I think it'll be a good partnership.
Yeah, good, healthy competition is always important. What maybe the biggest move the Flyers made this offseason, other than the draft, obviously, is the naming of Rick Tocchet as the next head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. What's it been like working with Tocchet this summer? Getting his on the ice and off the ice things kind of in order? I know when new coaches come in, they like to put sayings or signs and things up around the practice facility, all those kind of things. What's it been like day to day with Toc being such a great communicator that he is?
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of interaction, but the interaction that I have had with Rick has been very good. He's a very engaging, social person, and I think again, kind of like Vladar, I think there's a good positive energy to Rick that I think our players are going to appreciate and feed off of, and. Yeah, and he's also, what he has, not that every coach needs to have this, but he does have, the playing experience or playing pedigree of I've been there, done that, and this is how I did it. Not that I don't know that too many of our players, maybe none of them, can play and do what Toc did as a player, but I'm sure they can, they put some weight and some value into how he went about his business as a player, and how he stuck up for teammates, how he battled, how he found ways to contribute, and so I think that credibility is right there from the get-go, and like I said, there's a real positive vibe, energy to him, surrounding him, and I think it's going to be something that's beneficial to the entire group, not just the young guys, but also the old guys, to new voice and new approach and stuff like that.
Yeah, he showed up to work every day as a pro with a lunch pail, and when he says to a team and he's addressing his team, you need to have his back and he needs to have yours. And you look at the guy who exemplified his career that way, carries a little bit more weight, doesn't it?
100%. And yeah, I don't think it'd take too many videos searching YouTube to find exactly, the contributions that Toc made in and around a game, and found a variety of ways to do so. And yeah, no, I think that when he comes in and speaks, he gets everyone's attention, including mine, and rightfully so.
Alyn, one of the big other marquee things to happen this offseason was the acquisition of Trevor Zegras, a player who's got 260-plus point seasons before the age of 22. Last 2 years, dealt with some injuries, maybe the heaping of huge expectations on Trevor Zegras played a part as well in a rebuilding team. I think that's always a tough spot. He's obviously got buckets of skill. Now being on the opposite side of the country in a new situation, and he's actually an East Coast guy from New York, how much can that benefit a player heading into his 24-year-old season where he's had that success? Maybe it's gone away a little bit the last couple of years, but now he's got a brand new start in front of him on a team on the East Coast that really can buy into what he's got to sell.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of change and some new things happening with our group, which also falls in line with Trevor individually. A new opportunity, maybe slotted in different spots, new line mates. I don't know exactly where he was being used entirely in Anaheim. Certainly did some homework on him, but I would think that a lot of those things just you find a new energy level, and yes, 100%. There's he adds or elevates our skill level as our group, our power play. I don't think I have to go into great detail there that we could use a boost, and I would expect him to do that for us. So I think, and you see this a lot of the time, that where a player starts their career somewhere. I mean, I would fall into that category as a player, that when I went to San Jose, that things turned for the better, and it's nothing necessarily against the old situation, but all of a sudden, everything's new, different. Maybe it just clears your mind. Any biases or whatever was kind of a sticking point for you elsewhere has now been removed. And, hopefully with, like, say, a new opportunity, there's some freedom that'll, opens up what Trevor is shown he's capable of, and he gets back to that level of production. And I think that he'll be given every chance to do so with our group.
Yeah, I know Mike Richards spoke with the guys at Nasty Knuckles with Derek and Riley Cote about it, about being traded at his age and how much that could impact, the next phase of his career. And, Richie's a guy that I love. Doesn't say a whole heck of a lot, Mike Richards, as you know, but when he does, it's usually pretty profound.
Yes, and I mean just to talk on Mike, yeah, a lot of love for Mike, and I know that Mike hadn't won a Stanley Cup, but to tie it into earlier question and answer with LA Kings, getting Mike into that group back then, and I can clearly remember Game 1 of our first series that year that we won in 2012 was against Vancouver, who was a real cup contender, cup favorite. They'd been to the finals just a year or two earlier, and
year prior when they lost to Boston in Game 7 in 2011.
And he set the tone. He really did. And Mike was a winner at every level. And then, it was just a matter of time for him to win the Stanley Cup. He'd won everything else before that. And so, like I talked about with Niskanen, Mike Richards fell in line with that, even though he wasn't necessarily a cup winner. So anyway, just a lot of hold Mike Richards in high regard, and was a real key component of kind of setting the tone, setting the understanding of what was needed to win. And so if Mike Richards had something to say, I'd certainly listen.
But he won a championship in Pee Wee, won a championship in Bantam, he won a championship at Kitchener, he won a championship in the AHL. It's no mistake. What is like the key trait of a champion? Like, he's just a winner. Because he would do anything to win. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about how my numbers looked or how the stylistic. None of that. It was always about the end result. Is there a trait in just winners?
Yeah, I mean, certainly with Mike, I agree. I think very humble, willing to do whatever the team needed or team asked of him. In that situation, I know that he kind of, I'll say, went after some weaker links, or he just knew the key players on the other side, and he made a point of getting in their face, making life hard on them, and being a distraction. And that allowed for the Kopitars, the Dustin Browns, the Justin Williams to do their thing. Not more or less. Just that's what our team needed, was for that person to be like, hey, we're not going to back down. We're going after this. We want this. We want to win. And I don't know. I mean, exactly if there's one trait that defines those people as that always seem to win, but Mike in particular, he just, a bunch of those things kind of align, and allowed him to, like you just said, I mean, win at every level. It's very remarkable. I mean, Patrick Roy, I'm sure there's you can go into lots of sports and find those guys, and yes, there's sense and there's other things, but it just seems like there's that inner burn and desire to win and do whatever that is that's needed or asked of them to do so. And very, very thankful that we got Mike way back when.
And there's a ping pong table in the room too. He wins in that. It's like, oh, come on, man, enough already. What surprised you last year about Matvei Michkov? I mean, he comes over so young to jump into this league, an undersized guy. He's got a lot of gamer in him. But he comes in, just gets more and more comfortable as he goes, and just has a really good, inaugural season in the NHL. I think expectations maybe are a little out of control for him when I look at a guy like Kucherov's numbers and, how it took him 3-4 years to get to be a point per game player. But what about Michkov surprised you last year, either on or off the ice?
I don't know I hadn't seen him live ever until last year. But just, as far as things that stood out to me, I mean, just how driven he was to score goals. Like one of the very first few skates that I saw him on, he'd be one of those guys that would hang around the goaltender. And as soon as the goaltender let the puck loose, even after a save, even though the drill is going in a different direction, he would wait for it and then and drill it in the net. I don't know if the goaltenders appreciated that, but I was like, wow,
they hate it.
Yes, I'm sure they did hate it. But he just wants to score. He just wants to produce. And I know there's going to be some maturation both on and off the ice with him. Just his ability. And then in the games, his ability to make plays. Like he would look, I'm sure where I sit, and it's very similar to where you sit during the games. We're a couple hundred feet from the ice. It's a very slow moving game from up there. And he would get the puck and he would, kind of scan, survey the ice and be like, okay, I see the guy open there. And I'm thinking to myself, how can he, I can see the guy's there. He doesn't really look like he's open. And so often he makes the play. He gets that puck on the guy's stick. And then also like his ability to kind of read it without the puck and put himself in situations or in areas where he can score, where he just kind of sneaks off enough where, okay, now my stick's open and I'm available. Bam, it's in the net. And I think guys started to kind of get used to how he operates on the ice, how he kind of manages his space and time and how he wants the puck, but he will give and go. And so he's figuring things out. I agree. It's always a little bit harder in the second year. I think guys personally put their, expectation, they raise their expectation level, but also the competition does as well. And they're a little more ready for, that movement on the ice where, the tendencies, all those types of things. And so you gotta, not necessarily reinvent yourself, but you have to adapt a little bit. And so, but he's going to have, kind of a summer to prepare. Last year was a little bit up in the air, and whether he's going to play in the National Hockey League or not. A little more known this this summer, and going into the season. So, I think the preparation should be better.
He's a guy like, he may not be at the spot now, but when you play with him, he'll be there when he's supposed to be there, when it's time to deliver the puck. There was a play in particular, it was against Washington, I believe, in like early February, where he's coming down the left side. He's so positionless offensively. First of all, he attacks the middle of the ice and just causes all kinds of issues for the defending team. And he's got an easy drop off for a one-timer to a guy with a really good shot and Tippett, on the same side of the ice. Tippett's kind of there to his left, cocked and loaded, ready to go. But what does Mish do? He decides, because he sees Couturier on the back door across his body, to not just put it on a tee for Tippett where the defense is all flowing, but to go across the ice back door to Couturier, create a 10 times better scoring chance by doing it, and Couturier knocks it home. That's disgusting vision. You can't teach it.
No, it's just, those, say, special offensive players, their timing in the offensive zone, and then like their ability to kind of scan three options and figure out which one's the best option or the most dangerous option. That's what kind of separates them. Your Patrick Kane's, you can list off a variety of names that have been able to do it, but I think that's what separates them. And not to set the bar too high for Matvei, but he does have some of that for sure.
He kind of looks like Kane in the way he distributes a little bit too. As a guy that oversees the Phantoms as well, why was John Snowden the right man to lead the Phantoms? Very important and critical position in the organization with a lot of players coming. You look at, Barkey's going to join the Phantoms group, Bonk. Alex Bump got a little taste there last year. Where does he fit in this year? Bjarnason and going forward. John Snowden's the new head coach. Tell me about him.
Yeah, no, Snowy's, a very passionate guy, certainly somebody that carries a presence to him as the head in directing things. Had him do some stuff at development camp where he's leading practices and this and that. And he's very energetic. He's sees the game through kind of an offensive lens, if you will. and I know that he's going to have, he wants wants our group to be, highly competitive. So there's going to be an aspect of training hard as well, but just doing things with pace, being creative, and like you said, some of the guys that are going to enter into the mix down in Lehigh, your Barkeys, your Bumps, your Bonks. We like to draft players with B's as their first letter in their last name, but Bjarnason, but for a different reason. And so, yeah, I think that influx of kind of offensive minded players should mesh well with how Snowy sees the game and his approach to playing it.
Can you believe in 5 weeks from today, as this comes out on Friday, it'll be the rookie game, September 12th and 13th against the Rangers at the PPL Center. I want everybody to go to the game. We go, and Brian Smith and I go broadcast it every year, and it's a great time. And last year we got the debut of Michkov there, and he scores that goal from where else? Below the goal line. But 5 weeks from now, we'll be at the PPL Center watching hockey.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's exciting to have those games against the Rangers, do a nice job of filling it up, creating a good atmosphere. I know that the Rangers feel very similarly. They like how things have operated over the years for that reason. That some of the, not to knock other situations or games, but having the people in the stands and having that energy around the players and creating that atmosphere is it's good for the growth of the players versus just having player personnel or our management up in the crowd watching the players. There's some real people there cheering either for the Phantoms or against the Phantoms, and it's all good both ways. We appreciate the support and the people that are showing up to, like I say, create that atmosphere. And then also the excitement is elevated a little bit with the influx of our draft picks over the past 3 or 4 years with the Bumps, the Luchankos, Spencer Gill, Bonk. The list goes on and on. So it'll be. Yeah, exactly. So there's going to be a lot of new faces, young players that are wanting to make good impressions, and it's early in the season or early in the hockey year, but at the same time, the intensity and urgency is there because players are looking to impress on both sides, and it usually makes for 2 entertaining games.
Easy commute for both fan bases. Great building, one of the best barns in the AHL at the PPL Center. Again, those games will be on September 12th and 13th against the New York Rangers. Always a great time to get up there and start to get in hockey mode. A couple quick fire, rapid fire things for you. Martone to Michigan State. I wanted him to go to Penn State, in all fairness, and play with Gavin McKenna as an alum. But Michigan State, boy, Alyn, the NCAA route is legit and really putting players in a good developmental position going forward. You guys happy with the decision to go to Michigan State?
Yeah, absolutely. In Porter's case, he's played 3 years in major junior in the OHL already. So it seems like a very easy transition or easy choice to go into college. It's his choice to go to Michigan State, as it should be. A really good program. Obviously, we got Carson Dorwart from them last season, and Shane Vansagi. So, we're well versed in Michigan State and what they can provide. I was going to jokingly say that if he'd gone to Penn State, he might have ended up on the second line by the influx of talent to Penn State college overall. So it should be exciting. A variety of teams have added pieces and players to the college ranks, to the college teams, and it's always a good product. But it does seem like it's grown a little bit with whatever I was going to say, expanded rules, but maybe just dropping the rules a little bit. Yeah, no rules.
NIL. Guy Godowski's done a great job at Penn State. I'm really proud of the program, getting to a Frozen Four last year for the first time. Who knows? Maybe it's Penn State and Michigan State in a Frozen Four coming up this I guess March, April-ish. Nesbitt, raw player, but there's a lot there. He just needs to be kind of harnessed and developed, right?
Correct. Yeah, a very likable player. Smart, gritty, plays down the middle. Size or length, height and length are there. He'll fill out in due time. I know there's an athletic background surrounding his family. Just one of those players that can impact the game in a variety of ways. And again, not to set the expectation level so high, but he does have attributes that I would connect to being a winner. Somebody that is going to do whatever is needed by the team to be successful. And really like Jack. I know there's other teams that felt very similarly, and luckily we were able to grab them.
Last thing for you, going back to not this past year's draft, but the year prior, Jetlichenko, and then the two guys you took in the first round this year, Martone and Nesbitt. It seems to me, in talking with them, all three of them, they all are very comfortable talking. It doesn't seem like they're searching for what you want to hear, what they think you want to hear. It just seems to be a very mature person there beyond the hockey player. Is that a conscious decision?
Well, I think certainly our amateur staff does a lot of hard work. They put in a lot of miles, a lot of hours, asking questions, getting to know the players, and getting to know the person, I should say. I think they're certainly putting in hours to know the skill set that the player can bring to the table, but more importantly, what kind of rattles around inside their brain, and how do they approach things away from the rink, how do they interact with teammates, all those types of things, how do they carry themselves in general. And it was actually one thing that stood out to me at development camp this year for the group as a whole, that there was just a calmness, a maturity. And it was striking because you kind of forget all these, or majority of these kids are 17, 18, 19 years old. Like they're still kids, teenagers. And so to see them carry themselves the way they did in development camp, and there was lots of competition going on, but off the ice there was lots of I believe anyway, friendships being made, a lot of interaction, guys being social. But it just felt like they were there to improve themselves, and almost a sense of professionalism, which is surprising for that age group.
Yeah, that's a calm, and it's almost like a swagger right away, that you kind of a vibe that you feel. Half of those kids that were in that training camp haven't put a razor to their face yet. That's how young they are. They're not shaving.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly why it's kind of so striking, because you kind of look at them and you're like, yeah, this is there's lots of growing, developing to happen with these players, and in a variety of levels and a variety of different aspects. But to kind of have that calmness, or that sense of being is striking, refreshing, encouraging.
Yeah, no question about it. Great stuff. Alyn, I love talking to you. We convene every offseason, have a good in-depth conversation. I enjoyed this one a lot. I know the audience is going to really enjoy it as well. I want you to enjoy the rest of your summer cottage season. I know you're there now, but we'll be back at it before you know it. Like I said, 5 weeks, and we'll be at the rookie games. Obviously, rookie camp will start a little prior to that, and the work begins. And I'm looking forward to it. Just a phenomenal year, and another big step of growth for the Flyers organization.
Yeah, no, always appreciate catching up and doing the Zoom call, or whether it be in the rink in Voorhees. And looking forward to a couple of weeks left of summer, but also getting back to work in the orange and black. And it's a exciting time. I think we're gonna start to make some strides forward here.